What's up guys, semi-mong here, part of the Game On crew, and welcome back to yet another Elder Scrolls Online video. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I know I am. Look at this view. All that's a bit fast. You've got the mountains in the background, you can see the light quite literally shining off of my character's armor. It's so detailed. It's insane. And I know I do this pretty much every video, but just look at it. It is fantastic. This game does look so, immersive. It is literally, it just grabs you by every little detail. It's so good. But in the past, we've done a lot of guides, we've done a lot of sort of dungeon runs, and more recently, in the past month or so, we've done a lot of quest gameplay. So if you haven't already, go check that out. There'll be a link in the description down below of our Elder Scrolls playlist, which will contain every single video we've done from, as I said, the quest gameplay in the past couple of months. We've got dungeon runs that I've been doing. I did at lower levels, around level 10 to 20. Going to be getting back into them this week, guys, so be checking out our channel this week, or subscribe if you haven't already, because we've got a lot of dungeon runs coming for you this week. I want to go through one of the dungeons once each time, if that makes sense, so at least I've experienced each dungeon at least once. I know the level of the dungeon does sort of rise up to meet whatever level you are, but that's not the point. They unlock at certain levels, they're meant for certain levels. I want to try and get them all done at that certain levels. But in today's video, guys, we're returning to the guides and the tutorials, and we're actually going to be going through what all of your stats do, because in a lot of MMORPGs, you come on and the most overwhelming thing is seeing how much you've got to learn, such as what's Magicka recovery, what's weapon critical, what's resistance, all of this stuff. And to a lot of new players it can be off-putting and sometimes actually put them off the game completely. So I know when I played World of Warcraft, it was around level 40, I was just like, I don't know what to do, man, I don't know what to do. And then I just got some help telling me what I need to stack for certain characters, certain classes, certain builds, whether you're a mage or a melee. So I'm just going to quickly run through each of these and hint towards what you need to be stacking for a certain character. Obviously, me being a sorcerer, a summoner, a mage, however you want to spell it out, I do need to stack Magicka recovery, all of that good stuff, but it's not too much of a task to learn everything. You will understand it sooner or later, and that's why I'm here, guys, here to just help you out understand what each statistic means. Alright guys, so let's start off with the top three: max Magicka, max health, and max stamina. These literally are self-explanatory. These are just how much Magicka you've got, how much health you've got, and how much stamina you have. So for certain classes, if you're like a tank or a warrior who just wants to charge in and be able to sponge all the hits and slowly grind away at his enemies, you want to be stacking max health, just so when you do get hit, alongside all your armor benefits, you're not losing that much health, and you've got the health to lose because you've just got so Jesus, guys, I'm sorry. Because you've just got so much health from the max health. Max Magicka, I'd say, is aimed towards more mages, sorcerers, warlocks, like myself, so we can constantly get spells out, keep resummoning if we need to, and even for healers, you can constantly cast healing spells. Say in dungeon runs, you can keep your team alive if you literally just spacked a Magicka. Now, the downside to either specking in health to stay alive or Magicka to constantly cast your spells is max stamina. So now I know in fights, especially 1v1s or solo questing, that I'm running around a lot in fights and my stamina's running out, it's depleting quite quickly, and that's leaving me in the dark. I'm having to stay still, I can't run away, and sometimes it does get me killed, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, in an overall general term, if you're a warrior, you want to stack three quarters health, a quarter stamina. If you're a sorcerer, three quarters mage, a quarter stamina. The only sort of position or class or role even that I would suggest stacking stamina over the other two is something like a rogue, or I don't want to say ninja, but a stealthy sort of character or class whose only output or only aim is to literally do as much damage as possible. Now those classes are moving around, having to get behind their targets to snare their targets, having to get in front of their targets to land a critical hit. It could be anything, but a lot of stealthy rogue classes in a range of MMORPGs don't actually use magicka, they use like energy, or in this case, stamina. So your stamina obviously depletes when you're moving, and rogue and like slash stealth classes do move a lot, as I said, repositioning to line up for those hits. So if you are one of them, stacking stamina over magicka is definitely ideal, and stacking a little bit in health. Obviously you're constantly moving, but the odds are you're gonna get hit at some point, so you don't want to be just standing there, practically. This moves on to the next three: recovery, health recovery, and stamina recovery. Now, to my knowledge, you can get magicka, health, and stamina recovery in and out of combat, although I believe it only shows it as one here. So my magicka recovery won't be 380 per second while I'm in combat, I don't think. I'm pretty sure it's out of combat, guys, but on my next Elder Scrolls video I will sum that up and confirm that for you. But this, once again, is just very self-explanatory. If you're a mage, or if you're like a rogue or health, you want to be stacking whatever you're stacking, practically. If you're stacking health as a warrior, you want to be stacking health recovery. But you could counteract this. So if you're stacking health as a warrior, to make sure you're like sponging the hits, you want to stack health recovery so you make sure your health's recovering after being hit. But you may also want to stack other things, say stamina recovery. So as a warrior, if you've just been hit, your initial instinct would be to roll away, find cover, or defend yourself, even if it's just rolling away and then re-engaging in combat in a different position. If you've got your health recovery and stamina recovery up, you'll be able to see that your health slowly recovering after you've just been hit, and you can roll away quite freely, knowing that your stamina is going to recover pretty quick, and that you'll be able to roll away again and defend yourself if the situation presents itself. So you may have just been hit, half your health's gone, roll away, recover it, they may have just come charging back at you and hit you again, and you could be dead pretty much, practically. So you want to be able to roll away and keep rolling away, or keep moving, running, sprinting, whatever your escape plan is, and you want to make sure that your stamina is recovering so you can actually do that. Obviously you've got pots, you've got potions, you can I don't know, like, for me it's hard to select like what potion I'd need when going in. I don't know if I need a magicka potion, I don't know if I need a stamina potion, but having the recovery to back you up anyway is brilliant. Now I'm a sorcerer, so you see I'm actually stacking magicka recovery and stamina recovery quite highly over health recovery. Like, health recovery is under 200, like magicka's nearly 400, stamina's nearly 366. Now this does sort of contradict itself over the fact that my stamina's the least one in maximum stamina, so that's something I'll obviously have to work at. But if you look over in the left hand side, I've actually stacked more in stamina than I have in health. So it is just the way it weighs it up, the game weighs up how many points is added on by each attribute point. So don't worry too much if some of them are a bit lower than others. As long as you've stacked the points in them on this left hand side, you can see here, stamina, and then you should be okay. Now the bottom, like the middle row, is what I wanted to get to. So this is where people get confused. You've got spell damage and you've got weapon damage, okay? So spell damage, and weapon critical, spell critical. Spell damage is the damage that you do while casting any spell. Like literally any spell. Weapon damage is what you do from your weapon, whether it be a sword or me firing from my staff. That's how much weapon damage I'm doing. That's not the spell damage. That's what a lot of people get confused on. Now, personally, guys, I actually think spell damage, weapon damage, spell critical, and weapon critical are what differentiates each class from another. So, if you're a mage or a sorcerer or a summoner, what you want to be stacking is spell damage and spell critical, because you don't want the most of your damage coming out from your staff. You want your damage coming from your spells, being able to just rain down spells, cast like giant fireballs that just do insane amount of damage, and then top it off with spell critical, meaning if you get your critical chance up there high, you're not only doing an insane amount of damage with your spells and not your staff, but you're also got a big chance of actually landing a critical hit on them, meaning you can just chain critical hits from one spell to another. Now, once again, I do kind of contradict myself, but with my playstyle, a lot of my spells are either summoning spells, or they're spells that disorient my target. So some spells like land, like what was it? Was that imprison them to the ground? That's it. One of my spells, imprison them to the ground. Two other spells are my summoning spells. One spell's a curse. I think I've actually only got one spell that is physical damage, like instant cast damage. So that is why I personally haven't stacked spell damage. But overall, if you don't do like sort of summoning spells, if you don't have spells that like ensnare your target or weaken your target, and you do have spells that are just completely offensive, lightning strikes, fireballs, lightning storms, dark magic spells. A lot of dark magic spells are pretty instant, I'm pretty sure. And then spell damage is what you want to be stacking alongside spell critical, obviously, to get those big hits on and trying to chain those critical hits and just take down your target. Now, I've stacked weapon damage for my playstyle, but as a mage, I wouldn't suggest this. This is just because I'm firing from my staff quite a lot, so I want my staff damage to just do a bit more than my spells. Obviously, if you've got the same sort of playstyle as me, and you want to be stacking weapon damage, and you're ensnaring your targets, weakening them, summoning a lot of other critters to come help you, then that's fantastic, because you've got to don't forget guys, that your summoned creatures also do a lot of damage for you. So although your spell damage is down, you've got damage coming from your weapon and damage coming from your creatures. So for warriors and stuff like that, what I would suggest stacking is weapon critical and weapon damage, because alongside like a tank or a warrior, you want to be stacking armor, resistance, and I'll go through all of that in a minute. But as long as you're doing a lot of damage when you hit your target, and as long as your critical chance is up there, so you've got the chance to like literally just demolish your target with a giant like 1000 health hit or something like that, and then you're able to literally just stand there, sponge hits with your max health and health recovery, and then deal the hits as well after you've been hit. So you're not just being hit for half your health, you're dealing half of their health, or just a little bit, depends if it's a boss or player, depends how much you get on your weapon critical, whether your critical hits high or low, all of that good stuff. So you can see the difference between a mage and a warrior. And now, even more, for a rogue, what you want to do is weapon damage, weapon critical, and spell critical. So, weapon damage, obviously for a rogue, it's all about DPS, your damage per second. Your stealthy guy, your rogue guy, you want to be having him behind the target, dealing as many hits as possible, doing as much damage as possible. So weapon damage to be stacked upon everything else is a must. You would be wanting like 900 weapon damage, as well as a high weapon critical, so like every hit you're doing is doing a critical hit. Now, that would be insane. Like, it's not as much as a warrior, obviously, but you want to be stacking it to the point as where you're, like, literally just demolishing their health bar, and their health bar's just slowly going down. Spell critical for a rogue, though, can also be good. So, a lot of my spells as a mage, the imprison spell, when it runs out, does a little bit of damage. I believe that the rogue also has this too, so the rogue can have certain abilities that will teleport them behind the target, stab them and gut them, making them bleed. That's a spell, guys. It doesn't matter how you put it, that's a spell or an ability. So your spell critical will mean that does as much damage as it can, as long as it can. So obviously you could up spell damage as well, so like rather than having the chance of it doing 50 damage instead of 5, it does like 10 damage and has a little chance of doing 50. But if you up your spell critical, you've got the critical chance that when you teleport behind your target, I haven't actually played a rogue or stealth guy, by the way, this is information going off other MMOs, that when you teleport behind your target and get that first hit off of that spell, it just does an insane amount of damage. So there are different stats between everything. Obviously you've got the health, you've got the stamina, you've got the weapon damage, and it all depends on what class you play. But for the last sort of section, the spell resistance, physical resistance, and critical resistance, I can't really touch upon this, as I physically see resistance as, I don't see it 100% as PvP only, but I see it mainly as PvP only. So, let me just explain myself a little more on this, I guess. So in my eyes, guys, resistance is like a secondary armor. Each armor piece has a certain amount of armor it will give you. That's how much it's going to protect you from each hit in a percentage. I'm not quite sure how it works out, but I know the more armor you stack, obviously the less you're being hit. That's why people who wear light armor will have more health taken off them if hit by the same target as a heavy armored target, just because the heavy armor has more armor points and protects you more. So as a lower armored person, I'd try to stack resistance, but I only see this useful in PvP or the higher tier dungeons like level 50, even like raids where it's like even more than 5 people. Just because a lot of like mobs or like questing mobs, you're just going to drop quite easily. You're not going to be in big skirmishes of fights like just like that last 20 minutes until you get to end game. Like a lot of the dungeons in my level now, the bosses are dropping quite quickly and I'm not even being targeted half the time. So when it comes to PvP, you want to like try and stat as much as you can as both, because quite physically you can't determine who's going to be in the battleground. You could go in the battleground and there could be a bunch of spellcasters. The next day you could go in, there could be a bunch of warriors. Like, you won't know. So stacking both just gives you that bit more, I want to say armor, because it is practically armor. Like spell resistance, you have the chance to resist spell and the amount of damage it does to you. Same with physical resistance, you have the chance to resist the amount of damage you take while being hit. So when in PvP, having a good mixture of both just means you're able to resist a lot of incoming attacks from every direction. So guys, that's literally it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you now know what each of them does and what more to stack upon. As I said, it is a general guide and it is for everyone. So you could be a rogue class thinking, alright, I now have to stack my health, my stamina, and my weapon damage. And as long as I've actually confirmed that in your head, then this video has done its job, guys. So be sure to check out our Elder Scrolls playlist down below for plenty of other guides. We've got loads of summoner builds, we've got loads of guides. One of them's a summoner build if you want to check that out. Just like a general spell rotation and armor stacking summoner build. So if you're a summoner, go check that out. But until next time, guys, let's just take one last look at the mountains of Rivenspire. Look at them. They are so beautiful. But yeah, thanks and bye.